from A.A.T Studios. This is the Hermetic Reading, a corpus of essays from the Western Esoteric Tradition on attention, magic, and the operating systems of the modern world. Liber Primus, How to Read the World When the World is Reading You Back. The first essay. Listen carefully. The work is yours. Liber Primus, How to Read the World When the World is Reading You Back. A.A.T Studios, the Target parking lot in Asheville at 417 on a Tuesday afternoon. White Honda CR-V 3 spaces over from mine. Engine off, windows up. The woman behind the wheel has been holding her phone for 9 minutes. I have been counting because I had nothing else to do and because I have learned, slowly and against my own preferences, that watching this is a form of prayer. Her thumb performs the same arc, maybe 40 times. Up, flick, hold, scroll, pause, double tap, scroll. Her tongue passes once across her upper lip. She inhales sharply through her nose at minute 4. Something has spiked her, and the inhale catches at the top, held for 2.5 seconds before she lets it out as a soft sigh that fogs the inside of the windshield. She watches another video. Her pupils dilate visibly even at this distance. She laughs once without smiling. She frowns at something else. She types a comment with both thumbs, deletes it, types it again, sends it, and there is a small movement at the corner of her mouth that I want to call satisfaction, but might be closer to relief. 9 minutes. She has not started the car. She has not gone into the store. The candles she will eventually buy, and the bottle of Cabernet she will eventually buy, and the rotisserie chicken that will go uneaten in her fridge. These are still in her future. What she is doing right now in her car is the work. The errand was the cover. She gets out. She walks across the lot with the slightly too erect posture of a person whose nervous system has just been chemically rewarded for the 10,000th time, and whose body does not yet know that the reward arrived from a stranger she will never meet, on behalf of a system she could not name, in service of an objective that has nothing to do with anything she would have called her life 10 years ago. She has just performed her devotions. The target is the cathedral. The phone is the censer. The algorithm is the priest. The wine and the candle are the sacraments she will carry home to complete the rite alone. And she will tell herself the wine and the candle were the point, and the wine and the candle were not the point, and she does not know they were not the point, and there is no one in her life she could ask. She would tell you, if you asked her, that she is not religious. She would be wrong about that. She would not be lying. There were no candles in her hand yet. There were already candles in her eyes. You have just started a book about magic. I want you to know that before you go any further, because most books about magic these days will not tell you. They will tell you it is about wellness, or paradigms, or critical theory, or media literacy, or, most often, they will say nothing about what they are at all, and let you discover 200 pages in that you have been cast on. I do not want to do that to you. The thing in your hands is a working. The author is a magician. The fact that I am telling you this does not mean it is not a working. There is no honest position from which writing about magic can be done that is not itself magic, and any writer who pretends otherwise is either lying or has not understood what magic is. I will tell you what this book will not do. It will not tell you who to vote for. It will not tell you what to eat or what to think about pharmaceuticals or vaccines or Israel or Donald Trump or Klaus Schwab or any of the figures around whose names large quantities of attention are presently being spent. It will not give you a tribe. It will not give you a hero. It will not give you a villain you can hate cleanly enough to stop having to think. If you came here for any of those things, you came to the wrong shelf, and I am sorry for the inconvenience. What it will give you, if you read carefully and at the speed the prose was written for, which is slow, is the only thing that has ever actually freed a human being. A way of seeing. After you have it, you cannot lose it. After you have it, some of your friendships will become impossible. Some of your entertainments will stop entertaining you. Some of the rooms you used to walk into without noticing the air in them will become difficult to stay in for very long. I am telling you the cost honestly because the cost is real and because I do not want you to come back later and say no one warned you. This book takes the gods seriously. It takes Hermes seriously, by which I mean the function in the cosmos that the Greeks named after a thief and a messenger, and that the Egyptians named Thoth, and that the Renaissance Hermeticists called Trismegistus. It takes the Christ seriously, by which I do not mean the Sunday school figure with the long hair and the lambs, but the Logos, the structuring word, the divine pattern, the prototype of the awakened human, the thing that the early Greek-speaking Christian mystics meant when they used the word and that almost nobody who quotes them today still means. It takes the adversary seriously, by which I do not mean a horned cartoon, but the structural force operating in the present age, whose job is the inversion of every real spiritual current into its mirror image. If those words make you want to close the book, close the book. There is no offense. If you stay knowing this. I am one of the magicians I will be describing. I have built an egregore. You may be participating in it right now by reading this. I will tell you so again in different words several times over the course of this book because I think you should remain wary, especially of me. The devil's finest trick, Baudelaire said, is to persuade you he does not exist. I would add a corollary. The second finest is to persuade you he is the only one operating. Here is the first thing you have to be told, and almost no one in your life is going to tell you, which is why you have not heard it. The universe is not dead matter that somehow, late and inexplicably, started experiencing itself. The universe is a mind. Matter is its lowest octave. Consciousness is not an emergent property of complex arrangements of carbon. Consciousness is the substrate. The carbon is one of the things consciousness does. This is the first principle of the Kybalion, which is the modern précis of the Hermetic teaching, and it is the first principle, stated or unstated, of every functioning magical and mystical tradition that has ever operated on this planet. The all is mind. The universe is mental. If you cannot accept this even provisionally, the rest of the book will not work for you because every subsequent sentence assumes it. I will not argue you into it. The argument is not the kind that can be made. What I will point out is that you have been raised inside a 400-year-old experimental philosophy. Call it materialism, call it scientism, call it whatever, which began as a perfectly reasonable methodological choice. Let us see what we can learn by treating everything as if it were dead and only matter, and which has hardened over 4 centuries into a metaphysical conviction held with the certainty of a religion by people who would be appalled to be told they hold any religious convictions at all. They are wrong about that. Materialism is the de facto state religion of the 21st century West, complete with priesthood, the credentialed scientists, heretics, the people who notice the gaps, inquisitions, the cancellation rituals, and indulgences, the grants. It is also, as a description of reality, false. We can debate that elsewhere. Here I am, only telling you what this book assumes, if philosophical. If the universe is a mind, then the world you wake up into, the one with the target parking lot and the algorithm, is the lowest end of that mind expressing itself. This is the kingdom of duality. It runs on the dialectic of opposites, light and dark, male and female, expansion and contraction, life and death, the pair of pillars that every initiatory tradition from the Egyptians forward has placed at the entrance to the temple. This realm is not a mistake. It is not a prison from which you should desire escape. That is the Gnostic temptation, and I respect it because some of the most luminous minds in Western history fell to it, but I reject it. The realm is an alchemical mixing pot. The friction is the forge. Souls are placed here in bodies, inside the dialectic, on purpose, because what gets made in the friction cannot be made any other way. The great work is the conscious participation in your own forging. That is your job. It is, at the deepest level, your only job. Everything else you think you are doing here is decoration. Every event you experience occurs in two languages simultaneously. There is the material layer, what physically happened, what the journalists could verify, what the security camera caught. And there is the symbolic layer, what the event meant, what archetype it activated, what it did inside the collective imagination, what pattern it traced in the higher octave that is bleeding through into the lower one. Almost no one in your civilization has been taught the second language. The people running things were taught both. That is the actual division of the species in the present age. It is not class. It is not race. It is not nation. It is literate versus illiterate in the second language. And the operators are literate, and you have been trained deliberately since you could read your first book to mistake the second language for decoration when you noticed it at all. I cannot prove the second layer to you. No one can. It is not the kind of thing that admits of proof. It is the kind of thing that admits of recognition. Either you have had moments when reality has spoken to you in symbol, the unlikely song on the radio at the moment of the unspoken thought, the dream that prefigured the call from the long-lost friend, the sudden meaningfulness of a number you keep encountering everywhere you look, or you have not. If you have, you already know what I am talking about. If you have not, the rest of this book may not be for you, or it may be for you in a different way, as the slow training of an organ you have not yet used. The second language has a name and a source. The name is the Hermetic Tradition. The source, if you trace it as far back as the documentary record allows, is the Egyptian priestly schools of the late dynastic period, refracted through the Greek-speaking intellectuals of Alexandria in the early Christian centuries, written down under the pen name of Hermes Trismegistus, the thrice greatest, and circulated, copied, hidden, suppressed, rediscovered, suppressed again, and quietly carried by an unbroken chain of readers from then until now. I am one of the present links in that chain. There are perhaps a few hundred others alive at this moment, most of them not famous, doing the same work in different rooms, in different countries, in different languages. We do not have a central organization. We do not need one. The texts are the central organization. Hermes is not a man. Hermes is an archetype, the function in the cosmos that makes correspondence between layers possible. The Greeks named him after the messenger who crosses boundaries. He was also, not coincidentally, the patron of writing, of theft, of trade, of magic, of travel, of translation, of the souls of the dead. All of these are border crossings. When you read a symbol and feel meaning move from one layer to another inside your own nervous system, that is Hermes operating in you. The ancients did not consider this a metaphor. The Emerald Tablet is the densest document in human history. It is 14 lines long. The opening line is the entire operating manual. That which is above is like to that which is below, and that which is below is like to that which is above. To accomplish the miracle of one thing, everything in the corpus that follows, Kabbalah, alchemy, astrology, ceremonial magic, chaos magic, hyperstition, memetics, even what we now call cybernetics, is a footnote to this sentence. Read it slowly. Read it again. Sit with it for 3 days. You will not be wasting your time. The Renaissance Hermeticists, Ficino, Pico della Mirandola, Giordano Bruno, held a doctrine they called Prisca Theologia, the original wisdom, the conviction that there was a single primordial teaching transmitted to humanity at the beginning of its history, and that all genuine traditions afterward, Hermetic, Pythagorean, Mosaic, Vedic, Christian in its mystical core, Sufi, the deeper layers of Buddhism, are dialectical refractions of that single teaching, broken pieces of one statue. I affirm this directly. I am not a pluralist who thinks all religions are equally valid surface stories about an ineffable common center. I think there is one true thing. I think the visible religions are the broken pieces of its statue. I think the work of the initiate is to piece it back together using whichever shards he can reach in this life. I think this is a job that requires more than one lifetime, and I will come back to that. The Christ, in this frame, is not a sectarian figure. The Christ is the Logos, the structuring word, the divine pattern, the prototype of the deified human, the thing that the Gospel of John was talking about when it opened. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. The early Christian Hermeticists understood this. So did the Eastern Church, for the most part. So did certain medieval mystics, and so did the unbroken Christian Hermetic line from Eckhart, through Boehme, through Blake, through the present day. Jesus of Nazareth is, in this reading, the historical figure who incarnated the Logos most fully and most publicly in the West. He is not the sole exemplar. The Buddha incarnated the same function in the Indian register, with different emphasis. Hermes is the same function in the Egyptian Greek register, Krishna in another register. The names are not interchangeable for theological controversy. The function they each name is the same function. I will use the names interchangeably. You will have to keep up. Pythagoras enters here, not as a side mention, but as the second leg of the stool. The all is mind requires a corollary. If the universe is mental, it has structure, and structure has form, and form is number. The Pythagorean teaching that number is not a description of reality but its substance, that the decad and the tetractys are the actual scaffolding of the cosmos, that gematria is the technology by which encoded number reveals itself in language, is the second great Hermetic transmission. Kabbalah is the same teaching in a Hebrew register. Vortex math is its degraded modern echo, popular among people who have intuited the principle but lack the philosophical training to handle it. I will return to number when we get to sigils, where the application becomes practical. It is not a thought. It is not a feeling in the ordinary sense in which feelings are reportable and tradable on the market of self-narrative. It is a direct seeing, accompanied by a feeling tone that everyone who has had it recognizes immediately, and that no one who has not had it can be argued into. The closest verbal approximation is, of course. Of course, this is what was happening. Of course, this is who I am. Of course, this is what the world is. How could I have not noticed? In the moment of the seeing, the apparent subject of your life, the constructed self, the named person, the bundle of preferences and reactions that has been answering to your name for 30 or 40 years, is recognized as a costume. The actual seer is recognized as the deeper thing. After the moment passes, the costume returns, because in the present age and in the embodied condition, the costume is necessary for ordinary life, but it has been seen for what it is. The relationship to it is permanently altered. You can never again confuse the costume for the wearer. This is not unique to one tradition. Every functioning mystical tradition on earth has a vocabulary for this event. The Christian mystics called it the union with the Logos. The Sufis called it fana. The Hindus called it the realization of the Atman as Brahman. The Hermetists called it the knowledge of God within. Zen called it Kensho, and the deeper version Satori. They are describing the same event. The fact that they describe it in incompatible vocabularies is a feature of how the event resists language, not a refutation of the event. Now I will name the adversary, because we are at the part of the book where the naming becomes useful. The adversary, in the operative sense I mean, is not a horned cartoon. The adversary is the structural force in the present age whose function is the prevention of the gnosis event, not by direct attack on the spark. Direct attacks produce martyrs, and martyrs produce traditions, and the operators learned long ago not to do that. The adversary works by preoccupying the substrate in which the event would otherwise occur. Every minute you spend inside the algorithm is a minute the spark could have used to recognize itself, and didn't. Every push notification is a small theft of the silence required for the event. Every meme is a sigil that reinstalls the costume just as the costume was beginning to slip. The cage is built out of stolen attention. The theft is so continuous that the loss is invisible. The result is a civilization of unfinished souls, walking around in adult bodies, doing the work the operators need done, never having met the only thing in themselves that could have stopped them. I have to tell you the brutal part. Almost no one in your civilization will have the gnosis. Almost no one is going to. Not because they are not capable. Every human is capable. The capacity is the species' distinguishing feature. The actual imago Dei the Christian tradition has been talking about. But because the conditions that permit the event have been systematically removed from the available life, silence, boredom, solitude, long stretches of nothing, the night sky without a screen between you and it, fasting, prayer, the slow contemplation of a single verse for an hour. The operators have not banned these things. They have done something cleverer than banning. They have made them feel intolerable. The modern person, deprived of his phone for 30 minutes, experiences a withdrawal physiologically indistinguishable from the early stages of opiate withdrawal. The substance that has been weaponized against him is his own attention. You are the only piece of this they did not build. The defending of it is the only war that matters. The defending of it is also, and not coincidentally, the only war they cannot decisively win, because the seer in you is, by the construction of the cosmos, prior to anything they can do to it, they can only obscure it, they cannot destroy it. The choice to remove the obscuration is yours and only yours, and it is available in principle in any moment, including this one. The work is sevenfold, and it follows the 7 classical planets and their corresponding metals and stages of the alchemical opus. I will name them in their planetary order, which is the order of descent from Saturn through to the Moon, which is also, not coincidentally, the order in which they must be undertaken if any of them is to operate. Saturn. Lead. The discipline of silence. 30 minutes a day, no input, the phone in another room, no book, no music, no agenda, sitting with the eyes either open or closed depending on what is sustainable in this season of your life. The first week is unbearable. You will discover what your nervous system has been protecting you from with the continuous input. The second week reveals what the unbearableness was hiding. The third week, sometimes, the spark recognizes itself. Saturn governs limit, restriction, the bone of the structure, the hard truth. This is the foundation of the work. Without it, none of the other 6 disciplines operate. With it, the rest become possible. There is no shortcut. There is no app. There is no audio guide. The only requirement is that you sit down and that you do not get up for 30 minutes. Jupiter. Tin. The discipline of the dead. A meaningful fraction of your reading life, I propose a third, is spent on books written by people who died before 1950. They were under different spells than you. The contrast, over months, becomes visible in your bones. Jupiter governs expansion, breadth, the long view, the company of philosophers. The dead are the only company that cannot be bought, that cannot be cancelled into silence, that cannot be paid to retract their views. They have nothing to lose, and they will tell you the truth as they understood it, which was often more of the truth than you have access to in your present situation. The pre-Socratic fragments, the Stoics, Augustine, Eckhart, Boma, Blake, Dostoevsky, Tolstoy, Kierkegaard, Simone Weil. Pick one. Stay with him for 6 months. Then pick the next. Mars. Iron. The discipline of refusal. Once a week, refuse something the system insists you accept, not theatrically, quietly. Decline a notification. Skip a sanctioned outrage. Pay cash. Walk past the QR code. Choose the inconvenient option. Mars governs the will, the no, the cut. A will that has not been trained in refusal is no will at all. It is a hose through which the world's preferences run. The training is small at first. The capacity grows. After a year of weekly refusals, you will be capable of larger refusals. After a decade, of any refusal that the situation calls for. This is the construction of a man with a spine, and the present age has very few of them. Sun, gold, the discipline of the craft. Pursue one craft that earns you nothing: woodworking, prayer, an instrument badly played, a garden, a language no one will know you know. The sun governs the heart, the center, the gold. This is the construction by hand of a piece of your life that the rendering layer cannot capture, that the metric cannot measure, that the platforms cannot monetize. Without it, the rest of the practices are exercises. With it, they become the actual body of an actual life. The craft does not need to be impressive. It does not need to be shared. It needs only to be done by you for itself, with your hands or your voice or your mind, in time you have set apart for nothing else. Venus, copper, the discipline of love without audience. One person, long form, without posting about it, without optimizing, without making the love a performance. Venus governs union, the dissolving of separation, the meeting of two distinct things into a third thing that did not previously exist. The capacity to be in love with another human being without making the love a content category is a capacity that must be rebuilt in the present age, deliberately, against current. Most people you know have lost the capacity without noticing. The recovery is possible. It requires practicing love with one person in private, with no third party watching for a long time. Mercury, Quicksilver, the discipline of the symbol. Learn to read, not surface text, symbol. Take one tradition, tarot, the Hebrew letters, the astrological signs, the alchemical glyphs, the Christian iconographic tradition, and study it for 5 years. I insist on 5 years, and I insist on one tradition. The dilettante reads 4 traditions for 1 year each and learns nothing. The initiate reads one tradition for 5 years and acquires the second language, after which all traditions begin to open at once, because they were never as separate as the dilettante thought. Mercury governs translation, correspondence, the messenger function, Hermes himself, our patron, the function in you that crosses between layers. This is the practice that opens the eye. After the eye is open, the world is permanently different to it. Moon, silver, the discipline of the body. Reclaim it. Sleep enough. Eat what your great-grandmother would have recognized as food. Move every day. Sit in the sun some part of every day the sun is available. Touch the ground with bare feet when you can. Fast occasionally. The moon governs the body, the cycles, the silver mirror of the soul. The body is the literal vehicle of the soul's incarnation in this world. An unwell body cannot host gnosis except as catastrophe. Sometimes the catastrophe works, but you do not want to engineer it that way. I am not going to give you a diet. I am going to give you the principle. The body is yours. The priesthood between you and it is not yours. The relationship is yours to rebuild slowly and with care against the entire current of the present age. There is an 8th practice, unnumbered, that runs through all 7. Refuse the binary. When presented with 2 heavily promoted options, assume the choice itself is the spell, and search for the third thing nobody is naming. It is almost always available. It is almost never advertised. Now I will tell you what the life looks like on the other side of the work. After some years, he wakes without reaching for the phone. He sits for 30 minutes in the early light. He works at something he chose, even if it pays less than what he was offered. He eats slowly when he eats, and he often does not eat. He walks somewhere most days. He has 3 or 4 real friendships built over decades, none of them maintained through the platforms, all of them tested by something. He votes or he doesn't, but he doesn't experience the result on the night of the election as a verdict on his soul. He has a body that he has lived in long enough to trust. He has read enough of the dead that the living seem less authoritative than they used to. He knows what he believes about death, and what he believes is some version of, I do not know, and I am at peace with not knowing. And he knows it because he has tested it against actual death, the deaths of those he loved, and it has held. He has had, at least once, the gnosis. He doesn't talk about it. The talking about it is itself a sign of not having had it. The people who post about their awakenings are mostly the people who have had something less than the real thing, and are trying to convince themselves by convincing others. He recognizes the others who have had it within 3 sentences. They recognize him. They do not need to advertise the recognition to each other. The advertisement would be a corruption. He's not famous. He is not rich. He is not on any of the lists. He has no Wikipedia page. Or, if he has one, it is short and slightly inaccurate, and he has never tried to correct it. The systems do not have a category for him, which means the systems mostly ignore him, which is, in the present age, the closest available approximation of freedom. He is not in opposition to the systems either. He has located himself adjacent to them, taking what is useful, declining what is not, paying the taxes, not feeding the Egregores. He has a slightly different relationship to time than the people around him. He is not in a hurry. He is not bored. He is not waiting for the next thing. He is in this thing, the one that is happening to him at this moment, which is enough. The people who interact with him often report that being in his presence is restful in a way they cannot explain, and that they go home and want to make changes in their lives, and then mostly don't, because the changes would be hard, but the desire stays in them, and sometimes ripens in some of them 10 years later. There are perhaps 2 million such people on Earth right now. I have met maybe 40 of them in person. They are in every nation, every class, every religion, every age bracket. They are not organized. They cannot be organized. The moment they were organized, they would stop being what they are. They are the immune system of the species, distributed and hidden, and the species' continuance through the coming century may depend on whether their number can be doubled in time. I think it can. I am not sure. I am writing this book partly to test the hypothesis. You can be one of them by Tuesday. You will not be congratulated for it. The lack of congratulation is itself one of the requirements. What you have just read is the surface. Each of the pillars I have sketched, the Hermetic operating system, the programmable mind, the sigil and the egregore, Hollywood as ritual chamber, hyperstition, technocratic sorcery, the eschaton, the adversary function, gnosis, the great work, has its own essay in this corpus. The essays go deeper than this one does. The deeper they go, the harder they are to summarize to friends, and the more they have to be worked through rather than read. The rest of the corpus is harder than this. There will be sections you hate. There will be sections you think are wrong. I invite the disagreement, and I ask only that you stay long enough to find out which of the disagreements you are right to have and which of them you are wrong to have. That distinction is what reading is for. The unconsidered agreement and the unconsidered disagreement are the same act on the same level. Reading happens in the layer above both of them. I want to thank you here for your attention. Attention is the only currency that has ever mattered. You have just spent some of yours on me. I am in your debt for it. The next essay is the beginning of the repayment. The repayment will continue in essay after essay until either you have exited the corpus or one of us has nothing further to give. I do not know which of those will come first, neither do you. We will find out together. One last thing. Before the door closes behind you and you walk into the rest of the work, I have built an egregore. You may be participating in it now. The book in your hands is itself a working. I will tell you so again in different words, in essay after essay. The fact that I am telling you does not mean it is not. The day I stop telling you is the day you should stop trusting me. The day I become so famous that I cannot afford to tell you, the day the brand requires the silence, is the day the corpus dies and becomes one more tool of the apparatus it was built to resist. I do not know in advance whether that day will come. Neither do you. We will find out together. Until then, see the spell. You are already breaking it. Vale, frater. Vale, soror. The work is yours.